All right, so now we have sound, correct? Sometimes the only way to fix something on a computer is to unplug it and plug it back in. So I have no idea what that was, but I unplugged it. I plugged it back in. Somebody let me know if we have sound. I've gotten some no sounds. I think I have some sound now. So anyway, this is where we're going the next few weeks. After next week, when we cover 15 and 16, we will be only covering a chapter a week for a few weeks. And that's because those chapters are pretty heavy with a lot of things and things that we need. So we'll kind of slow down as we go through there, and then we'll kind of speed back up. We are shooting to be done around August the 19th with 2 Kings. I have a review down for 826. I'm not sure exactly how that is going to work. I know that we usually do a mock Bible Bowl with Jolton, and I don't know if that'll be on the 26th or maybe the week after that, which will actually be the Wednesday before Bible Bowl. I don't really know all of that schedule, so some of that stuff toward the end is probably going to change. So, all right, we're going to cover 2 Kings, just going to kind of go through a few things. Hello, Jason Bell, good to have you with us. Hope you stick around. So one of the first things I want to do as we go through 2 Kings, as I want to remind you where we are in chapters 13 and 14. So let me go back to a different screen, get on this side. So we are actually looking in chapters 13 and 14 about this section of time that's in the darker area. We are going to have the reign of Jehoahaz, Jehoash, and Jeroboam II in Israel, and then that is the end of the reign of Joash in Judah, and Amaziah and Uzziah. Now, if you're doing Bible Bowl or even Bible study, it doesn't really matter. You need to remember this. Uzziah, which is the name used in 2 Chronicles, in 2 Kings, that king is called Azariah. So as you get into chapter 15, part of 14 tonight and 15 next week, Azariah and Uzziah are the same person. You remember in the year that Uzziah died is when Isaiah saw his vision. So when you get to, again, 2 Kings 14 and 15, just remember that Azariah and Uzziah are the same person. So we're going to be covering basically the reign of those three kings tonight. We're just going to kind of pick out some highlights. Then we are going to have some questions, and you can send in the score and tell me how you do with those questions. So let's just go to the text, and again, I'm not going to read the entire text. We're just going to kind of look at it quickly. And if you have some questions, throw them in the chat box. I have the chat box from Vimeo open. Also the chat box from the two Facebook places watching. Hey, wait a minute. Before I get through that, though, fun time, okay? But I covered them up. So Holly Hunter sent me a picture one time. Let me do this. Yeah, let's get here. So Holly drew me a picture that is Mr. Greg preaching on TV, which I think is really cool. That's kind of neat. And then Abby came by this week and brought me a picture. You can see where it's kind of clear right there. That's supposed to be green, but since I'm sitting behind a green screen, it blocks the green out. And Ava also sent me a picture, and again, that what you see is clear. That's supposed to be green. So if you have pictures to send me, I appreciate those. I think they're neat. I'll try to find a place on my wall for all of those. All right, so into the text of 2 Kings chapter 13. So we're discussing the reign of Jehoahaz. And Jehoahaz reigned, if you can see here, hang on just a second, let me get a different screen up for me. All right, Jehoahaz reigned for 17 years. One thing to remember, if you're doing this for Bible Bowl, all of the kings in Israel that we're going through, it says they did evil in the eyes of the Lord, and the two kings for Judah, they did good in the eyes of the Lord. So Jehoahaz reigned 17 years. He did evil right here, he did evil in the sight of the Lord, and he followed the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel sin. So things to remember, the anger of the Lord was aroused against Israel, and he delivered it in the hand of Hazael, king of Syria, and in the hand of Ben-Hadad, the son of Hazael, all their days. So if you go to our map, just quickly, if I can go there. All right, so here's our map. So Aram is up here, and the New King James Version, instead of the word Aram, it uses the word Syria. So you can remember who that was. So Syria, Aram is up here, and Israel is here, Judah is down here, and then we're going to talk about a couple of other of these areas as we go through tonight. So the Lord, the anger of the Lord, and he delivered them in the hand of Hazael, the king of Syria. So, and this is an interesting thing. Jehoahaz pleaded with the Lord, and the Lord listened to him. And that's kind of an interesting lesson, because if you go back up here to the beginning, remember, he did evil in the sight of the Lord, but when he pleaded with the Lord listened to him. And I think it's kind of neat that God uses an imperfect ruler, but he still brings grace and forgiveness into Israel, and you're going to see that in the next 2 Kings. And it said, because he pleaded and he saw the oppression of Israel, the Lord gave Israel a deliverer. Now, that deliverer didn't really show up during the reign of Jehoahaz. That deliverer is actually 2 different peoples, Joash and also Jeroboam II, which are the 2 kings that show up after I get all these kings confused, after Jehoahaz did. And it's really interesting. I want to just flip the page on the text here for just a second. I went too far. Sorry about that. Hang on just a second. Go back to 13:1. There was a verse that I was looking for. I think it's 13:23. Maybe I didn't go far enough. This is interesting about Jehoahaz and his reign right here. But the Lord was gracious to them. He had compassion on them and regarded them because of his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and would not destroy them or cast them from his presence. So one of the reasons that God listens to the prayer of Jehoahaz is because of the promise that he made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And there's a great lesson for us in there, and that is God is always faithful. God does not neglect his promises, and God's always faithful to the promises that he made. And even though the people were evil, God is still faithful to the promise. So back to Bible Bowl. So let me get back to the right spot in the text. And so as he had war with Samaria, 2 things happened. One, he made Israel sin, but walked in him, and the wooden image also remained in Samaria. And most other translations will have an Asherah there, because it's an Asherah pole or a tree, and that could have been basically one of 3 different things, or maybe all 3. One is sometimes they would just plant it'd just be a pole who is there to honor that goddess. And other times they would plant actually a tree. There's actually a verse in Deuteronomy about don't plant an Asherah tree next to an altar. So in some ways it was a tree, or it could just be a pole, or in some ways, like with the story of Gideon, it's actually a grove of trees, but they're all built around this idea of a tree. Asherah was in well, we won't get into all of that. We'll do that some other time. So with all of this war with Syria, his army has become almost nothing. He has 50 horsemen, 10 chariots, 10,000 foot soldiers, and he made them like the dust at threshing. So Jehoahaz reigns, he reigns, he dies. They bury him with his fathers in Samaria. The kings of Israel usually buried in Samaria, the kings of Judah usually in Jerusalem. So they buried him, and Joash, his son, reigns in his place. Now, if you're trying to keep up with all of this in Bible Bowl, let me go back one other chart. Back to our chart here. There, Jehoash up here, you see this, Jehoash here, and Joash is here. Joash is the king of Judah. Jehoash is the king of Israel. But they switch those names around. Sometimes Jehoash is called Joash. So when you read those and you're getting ready for Bible Bowl, one of the things that you need to do is make sure that you read and make sure whether he is the king of Israel or the king of Judah, because those names are used interchangeably between each one. We saw that in a couple of other chapters in 2 Kings as well. So just kind of keep that in mind as you go through that. So Jehoash dies, and then Joash becomes king in his place. And you kind of see that referenced here. In the 37th year of Joash, king of Judah, Jehoash, son of Jehoaz, became king over Israel and Samaria and reigned 16 years. And then later, if you got one of the New King James Version, which is the footnotes, it will note in there when they switch those names back and forth. So he reigned 16 years, but he was also evil. He did not depart from the sins of Jeroboam. Remember, Jeroboam set up 2 altars, 2 gods, and said, these are the gods who brought you out of Egypt. And now here's one thing that the text does, and just kind of watch it so you keep up with it, okay? He says, he kind of sums up all of Joash. Now, the rest of the acts of Joash, all that he did with his might, which he fought against Amaziah, king of Judah. Now, we haven't read that yet. That's in the next chapter. Are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel? So Joash rested with his fathers, then Jeroboam sat on his throne. Okay, although it gives you this paragraph, it says, okay, here is the 2 paragraphs, and says, okay, here's the reign of Joash. Everything that happens from here until about the middle part of the next chapter is all during Joash's reign. So just because it says he died here, he's still going to be alive when all of these other things happen in the next chapter and a half. So just kind of keep that in mind as you go through. Now, there are a couple of really important things happened while Joash is king, or Jehoash, whichever name that you want to use and be consistent with. And one of the key things is Elisha dies. Elisha passes away. And it said Elisha had become sick with the illness of which he would die. And usually we don't think very much about the prophets getting sick and dying, but it's like Joshua and David said, it's just the way of all the earth. And I throw a trivia question out here. You can answer it on there. I won't answer it yet to see if you do. Who are the 2 people in the Old Testament who did not die? So if you got that, throw that out there. 2 people in the Old Testament that didn't die. I don't have a prize, but we'll see who gets the answer right. So Elisha becomes sick with an illness of which he would die. And sometimes, we have this concept that God is going to keep us absolutely safe from every illness or every disease. And God doesn't come to insulate us from those things. He comes to walk with us through those journeys. So it doesn't mean that God was very faithful to Elisha. So it's, sometimes even in the faithfulness of God, people get sick and they get illnesses. So Elisha, Joash, the king of Israel, came down to him and wept over his face, which I think that's really interesting. And it's this to me is extremely interesting. He says, "Oh, my father, the chariots of Israel and their horsemen." If that rings a bell, it's because that is the very same thing that Elisha said back in 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 12, when Elijah is being taken up to heaven. He says, my father, the chariots of Israel and their horsemen. And so when Elisha is getting ready to die, the king of Israel says the exact same words. It just makes me wonder. I wonder what they saw. I wonder if they saw the chariots of Israel and their horsemen. And I wonder if when that time comes for me, if I'll see the chariots of Israel and the horsemen, or maybe I'll see something else. I don't know. But I just think that's really neat and really cool that that's in there. So you just need to remember that phrase. So Elisha tells Joash, he said, take a bow and some arrows and put your hand on the bow. And then Elisha puts his hands on the king's hand. And then he says, go open the east window. So he takes his hand off long enough, I guess, to go open the window. He goes, opens the window, and Elisha said, shoot, and he shot. And he shot the arrow out the window, and he said, that is the arrow of the Lord's deliverance, and the arrow of deliverance from Syria, for you must strike the Syrians at Aphek until you have destroyed them. And then he said, take the arrows, and took the arrows, and he said, strike the ground. So Joash takes the arrows, and he strikes the ground 3 times, boom, 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 and then he stops. And Elisha becomes angry with him and said, you should have hit the ground 5 or 6 times, and then you would have struck Syria until you destroyed it, but now you'll only strike Syria 3 times. And I'll be the first to tell you, I don't really understand all of that, because it looks like 1 time would have been enough, right? If God wanted to destroy them, but it's not the way it worked out, and sometimes I just can't explain the text. I don't know if there is something that Elisha told him before he struck the ground, that he knew he needed to strike it more than 3 times. I have no idea. It's just one of those places in Scripture that I'm just completely at a loss trying to figure out what it means. But anyway, he is going to strike Syria 3 times because he struck arrows on the ground 3 times. And then Elisha died, and they buried him. I mean, and all of the things, as great as Elisha was, and all the things that he did, the only thing you get about Elisha is Elisha died, and they buried him. And then there's this really interesting story that comes out. So the raiding bands from Moab would invade the land in the spring of the year. And if you go back to our map really quickly, let me get that back up here for you. Moab is, so here's Israel, and Moab is this dark section right here. And in the spring of the year, they would come up and they would attack Israel and take crops or other things that they thought they could find. So it's the spring of the year, and they come up to attack Israel. And so there's a group of people, and they're burying someone. And as they're burying someone, they spy this group of raiders coming from Moab. So they put the man in the tomb of Elisha. I guess they're burying him in a hurry now. And so when the man is let down and he touches the bones of Elisha, he comes back to life and stands on his feet. So if you're not ready to go, have them bury you in the tomb of Elisha, and if you touch him, then I guess you'll be alive again. So nobody answered the first question. So the first trivia question was, who are the 2 people who did not die in the Old Testament? So try that one, and then after that trivia question, the second trivia question is, who are the 2 people in the Old Testament who are raised to life except for this man who touched the bones of Elisha? There are 2 other people who are raised from the dead in the book of, in the Old Testament, so let me know who those are. Oh, wait a minute, the Burgers, Enoch and Elijah. Burgers got that one right, yeah! Okay, so second question, the 2 who were raised from the dead, so throw that in the chat box so I can see it. So Hazael, who's the king of Syria, he oppressed Israel all of the days of Jehoahaz. And remember, we talked about him at the very first. So Jehoahaz, all the time that he's there, he prays to God. God's going to send a deliverer, but all of the time that he is king, that God oppresses them. And so when Hazael dies, and he is the king of Syria, or of Aram, then Ben-Hadad, his son, reigns in his place. And when Jehoash becomes king, I know that's a lot of kings that have very similar names, but when he becomes king, he recaptures the cities which he had taken from Jehoahaz, his father, by war, and 3 times Joash defeated him and recaptured the cities of Israel. So while Joash is king of Israel, Amaziah, the son of Joash, the king of Judah, okay, there you get the 2 Joashes together in one sentence, right? In the 2nd year of Joash, the son of Jehoaz, the king of Israel, Amaziah, the son of Joash, the king of Judah, became king. So remember, keep those separate. So he's 25 years old when he becomes king, and he reigns for 29 years, and he's a king of Judah, and he does what is right in the sight of God. And if anybody's throwing those answers in the chat box, I can't see them. But the high places are still not taken away, and the people still sacrificed and burned incense on the high places. And maybe one lesson we'll go into some detail about what the high places. Healing, Elijah, widow's son, and Elisha, someone. Yes, you're on it. Elijah, let me see if I can remember this. Elijah raised the widow of Zarephath's son, and Elisha raised the Shunammite woman's son. So those were the two who were resurrected, plus the guy who touched the bones of Elisha. All right, so Amaziah becomes king, and he does two really interesting things. Now, last week Jeff covered when Amaziah became king and what happened. There was conspiracy and they killed his father. So when he becomes king, one of the first things he does is he executes the servants who murdered his father, the king. But in kind of an unusual thing, following the Old Testament law, he doesn't execute their children. Because in the book of Moses, the Lord commanded, fathers shall not to be put to death for their children, nor children to be put to death for their fathers, but a person shall be put to death for his own sin. And that's really kind of unusual in that culture. Usually they would kill families, but anyway, he's a righteous guy. He's trying to follow the law. He does right in the eyes of the Lord, and he kills 10,000 Edomites in the Valley of Salt. Now, the Valley of Salt and the Edomites, so we can go back and you can see where we are on the map. So here's Edom. So Israel's fighting with Edom, although the king of Judah is fighting with Edom, and they do touch borders right here. And this area right in here would be the Valley of the Salt is somewhere in this area right in there. I'm not exactly sure exactly where, but somewhere in that area is where it is. So he slays 10,000 Edomites in the Valley of Salt, and he takes Selah by war, which is there in the country of Edom. So he sends messengers to Jehoash, who is the king of Israel, and he says, "Hey, let's fight each other. Let's go into battle." And Jehoash sends this really, really interesting parable back. He says, "The thistle that was in Lebanon sent to the cedar that was in Lebanon, saying, 'Give your daughter to my son as a wife.'" So a thistle is like a little thorn bush. So the little thorn bush says to the cedar tree, "Well, you need to give your daughter to my son as wife." And this wild beast comes along and tramples the thistle, so it's no more, I guess. And so he says, and this is kind of the point of the parable, you defeated Edom, and your heart has lifted you up. In other words, you defeated Edom, and you've become very proud. But you need to stay at home. For if you come meddle with me, and trouble is going to fall on you, and you and Judah with you. So it's kind of like he's saying, I know you defeated the Edomites, but if you come over here and try to fight, you better just stay home, because it's not going to work out so well. But Amaziah does not listen, and they go and face each other at Beth Shemesh, which is right there in the land of Judah. I can pull up a map and show you, but I don't think that's that important. And Judah is defeated by Israel, and Amaziah, the king of Judah, is captured by Jehoash, and he goes to Jerusalem. He breaks down the wall of the gate from the gate of Ephraim to the corner gate, which is 400 cubits. It's about 600 feet. Now, Azariah or Uzziah, who comes next, is going to rebuild that section, okay? But he goes in there and he takes articles of gold and silver, things that's found in the treasury of the house, and all of the other acts of Jehoash, which he did, and how he fought the king, Amaziah, the king of Judah. They're written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel. So he rests with his father. He's buried in Samaria, and Jeroboam, his son, reigns in his place, and that'll be Jeroboam the second. And Amaziah lives 15 years after the death of Jeroboam, and all of his things are written, and he fled to Lachish in a conspiracy, but they went to Lachish and killed him. They brought him in horses, took him to the city of David, and buried him as well. And in verse 21 here, all the people of Judah took Azariah, who was 16 years old, and made him king instead of his father Amaziah. And we'll go into some, well, I'm not sure I'm teaching next week. We'll go into some detail with that. But remember, this Azariah is the same as Uzziah when you read the 2nd Chronicles section. So Jeroboam the second becomes king. He reigns 41 years, but he does evil in the sight of the Lord as well. As you can see right there, now remember, God is extending their territory back, just as he promised Jehoahaz that he would do, and he did that through Jehoram, and now he's going to do more through Jeroboam the second, because he's heard of their oppression. So he restored the territory of Israel from the entrance of Hamath to the sea of the Arabah. Now, let's look at a map just real quickly and see where that is so you can see what's happening there. So he extends it. The Arabah is actually the Dead Sea, okay? So from the Dead Sea and then all the way up to Hamath, which is this area. If you go and look at the kingdom of David and Solomon, you can see that during that time, they actually controlled a section of land all the way up here. I mean, David and Solomon, especially Solomon's kingdom, was very, very large. So he restored all of this area. Let me shrink that down a little bit so you can see that. But he restores from here up into this area, probably the entrance right up in here. So Aram has pretty much been defeated by them through that time period and through the things that are happening there. So now here's another interesting thing that happens during the reign of man, I get confused where we are here. The reign of Jeroboam the second. You might recognize this guy right here. He restored the territory of Israel from Hamath to the sea of Arabah, according to the word of the Lord God of Israel, which he had spoken through his servant Jonah, the son of Amittai, the prophet who was from Gath Hepher. So Jonah is mentioned here, and how he worked with Jeroboam II, how he was a prophet during that time period. This is the only occurrence of Jonah outside of the book of Jonah in the Old Testament. There's some New Testament references to Jonah, but this is the only other one in the Old Testament. So, and this verse is really interesting too. So, for the Lord saw the affliction of Israel was very bitter, whether bond or free, there was no helper for Israel. And the Lord did not say that he would blot out the name of Israel from under heaven, but he saved them by the hand of Jeroboam the son of Joash. Now, there's kind of a proclamation that always comes when God is going to destroy the nation. And so the writer is telling us, okay, that proclamation hasn't come yet. That proclamation is not there. God hasn't said yet that he is going to blot the name of Israel out from under heaven, but that is going to come later in 2 Kings as we go through. So Jeroboam and all that he did, how he made war, how he captured Israel from Damascus and Hamath, and what belonged to Judah, are they not written in the chronicles of the books of the kings of Israel? So he rested with his father, and Zechariah, his son, reigns in his place. So that's just kind of a really quick run through chapters 13 and 14. And please go back and read that later. But as we always do, we have a few questions that we're going to throw up here, and we're going to see how we score and how we do. And good luck. I have actually... Cheryl Kilgore puts these together. Thank you very much for that, Cheryl. And I have not even looked at these. So I'm going to be testing through these as well as you. I tell you what, maybe I get out some scorecards. I get out my little scorecards here. We'll see how I do. So you guys keep me honest, all right? I'll try to keep that down here. Let me see if I can set these up where I grab the right scorecard. All right. Here we go. First question. I can make the PowerPoint work. 2 Kings chapter 3 verse 13. Because of Jehoahaz, king of Israel, the anger of the Lord was aroused, and he, A, delivered them into the hand of Hazael, king of Syria. B, delivered them into the hand of Joash, the king of Judah. C, delivered them into the hand of Shomar, the king of Aram. 2 Kings chapter 13 verse 3, because of Jehoahaz, the king of Israel, the anger of the Lord was aroused, and he A, delivered them into the hand of Hazael, king of Syria, B, delivered them into the hand of Joash, king of Judah, C, delivered them into the hand of Shomer, king of Aram. Time. I'm thinking it's A. All right, A. Woo! 2 Kings chapter 13, verse 5. The Lord gave Israel a deliverer, and the children of Israel, A, rose up against Ben-Hadad, B, threshed wheat as they did before, C, dwelt in their tents as before. 2 Kings chapter 13, verse 5. The Lord gave Israel a deliverer, and the children of Israel, A, rose up against Ben-Hadad, B, threshed wheat as they did before, C, dwelt in their tents as before. Time. I think the answer is C. C, dwelt in their tents as before. All right, 2 for 2. 2 Kings chapter 13, verse 7. The king of Syria had destroyed the army of Israel and made them like what? A, stubble at harvest, B, chaff at the winepress, C, dust at threshing. 2 Kings chapter 13, verse 7, the king of Syria had destroyed the army of Israel and made them like what? A, stubble at harvest, B, chaff at the winepress, C, dust at threshing. Time. C, dust at threshing. 2 Kings chapter 13, verse 14. Who came down and wept over Elisha when he was sick with the illness of which he would die? A, Ahaz, king of Judah, B, Joash, king of Israel, C, Gehazi, his servant. 2 Kings chapter 13, verse 14. Who came down and wept over Elisha when he was sick with the illness of which he would die? A, Ahaz, king of Judah, B, Joash, king of Israel, C, Gehazi, his servant. Time. I think it is B, Joash, king of Israel. My blue card kind of vanishes with the green screen. 2 Kings chapter 13, verse 14. What did Joash say as he wept over Elisha? A, O my father, the chariots of Israel and their horsemen. B, O prophet of God, may you live forever. C, O man of God, the Lord deliver you. 2 Kings 13, 14. What did Joash say as he wept over Elisha? A, O my father, the chariots of Israel and their horsemen. B, O prophet of God, may you live forever. C, O man of God, the Lord deliver you. Time. A, O father, the chariots of Israel and their horsemen. You were listening to the lesson. 2 Kings chapter 13, verse 15. What did Elisha tell King Joash to get? A, chariot and horses. B, a bow and some arrows. C, a cook pot and fire. 2 Kings chapter 13, verse 15. What did Elisha tell King Joash to get? A, chariot and horses. B, a bow and some arrows. C, a cook pot and fire. Time. Correct answer, I think, is B. Yes, a bow and some arrows. It'll be embarrassing if I do the wrong answers, but that's just part of it. I'll probably miss one. 2 Kings 13, 17. What did Elisha tell the king to do when he put his hands on the king's hands? A, close the east window. B, open the east window. C, pray with him. 2 Kings 13, 17. What did Elisha tell the king to do when he put his hands on the king's hands? A, close the east window. B, open the east window. C, pray with him. Time. Question answer is B, open the east window. 2 Kings chapter 13, verse 17. Who was Joash to strike with the arrow until he destroyed them? A, the raiders from Edom. B, the raiding bands from Moab. C, the Syrians at Aphek. 2 Kings chapter 13, verse 17. Who was Joash to strike with the arrow until he destroyed them? A, the raiders from Edom. B, the raiding bands from Moab. C, the Syrians at Aphek. Time. I think the answer is C. Yes, the Syrians at Aphek. 2 Kings chapter 13, verse 18. How many times did Joash strike the ground with his arrows? A, 3 times. B, 8 times. C, 12 times. 2 Kings 13, 18. How many times did Joash strike the ground with his arrows? A, 3 times. B, 8 times. C, 12 times. Time. Correct answer is A, 3 times. 2 Kings chapter 13, verse 19. Why was Elisha angry with King Joash when he struck the ground 3 times with the arrows? A, he did not obey the instructions of the Lord. B, he broke the arrows. C, he should have struck the ground 5 or 6 times. 2 Kings 13, 19. Why was Elisha angry with the King Joash when he struck the ground 3 times with the arrows? A, he did not obey the instructions of the Lord. B, he broke the arrows. C, he should have struck the ground 5 or 6 times. Time. Correct answer is C. He should have struck the ground 5 or 6 times. 2 Kings chapter 13, verse 20. After Elisha died, who invaded the land in the spring of the year? A, Hazael, king of Syria. B, raiding bands from Moab. C, cities from Samaria. 2 Kings chapter 13, verse 20. After Elisha died, who invaded the land in the spring of the year? A, Hazael, king of Syria. B, raiding bands from Moab. C, cities from Samaria. Time. Answer is B, raiding bands from Moab. 2 Kings 13:21. As Israelites were burying a man, they spied raiders and threw the man where? A, into the tomb of Elisha. B, into a cave. C, into the tomb of Jehu. 2 Kings 13, verse 21. As Israelites were burying a man, they spied raiders and threw the man where? A, into the tomb of Elisha. B, into a cave. C, into the tomb of Jehu. Time. Correct answer is A, into the tomb of Elisha. 2 Kings 13:21. What happened when the dead man was let down and touched the bones of Elisha? A, he was taken straight into heaven. B, he revived and stood on his feet. C, he was buried with the man of God. 2 Kings 13:21. What happened when the dead man was let down and touched the bones of Elisha? A, he was taken straight into heaven. B, he revived and stood on his feet. C, he was buried with the man of God. Time. Correct answer is B, he was revived and stood on his feet. 2 Kings 13:23. Why was the Lord gracious to Israel during the days of oppression from Syria? A, because he heard their cry and had pity on them. B, because they repented and prayed. C, because of his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. 2 Kings 13:23. Why was the Lord gracious to Israel during the days of oppression from Syria? A, because he heard their cry and had pity on them. B, because they repented and prayed. C, because of his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Time. Correct answer, I think, is C, because of his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. 2 Kings 13:23. Because of his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the Lord would not destroy Israel or A, allow Syria to overtake them. B, cast them from his presence. C, allow them to be captured. 2 Kings 13:23. Because of his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the Lord would not destroy Israel or A, allow Syria to overtake them. B, cast them from his presence. C, allow them to be captured. Time. Correct answer is B, cast them from his presence. 2 Kings chapter 13, verse 24. When Hazael the king of Syria died, who reigned in his place? A. His son Ben-Hadad. B. His commander Shomer. C. His servant Amaziah. 2 Kings 13:24. When Hazael king of Syria died, who reigned in his place? A. His son Ben-Hadad. B. His commander Shomer. C. His servant Amaziah. Time. A. His son Ben-Hadad. 2 Kings chapter 14 verse 3. Amaziah king of Judah did what was right in the sight of the Lord, yet not like A. his father Solomon, B. the prophet Elisha, C. his father David. 2 Kings 14:3. Amaziah king of Judah did what was right in the sight of the Lord, yet not like A. his father Solomon, B. his prophet Elisha, C. his father David. Time. Correct answer is C. his father David. 2 Kings 14:5. As soon as Amaziah established his kingdom, what did he do? A. Destroy the high places. B. Tear down the Asherah poles. C. Execute the servants. 2 Kings 14:5. As soon as Amaziah established his kingdom, what did he do? A. Destroy the high places. B. Tear down the Asherah poles. C. Execute the servants. Time. Correct answer is C. Executed the servants who murdered his father. 2 Kings 14:6. Why did Amaziah not execute the children of the men who murdered his father? A. Because they were hidden. B. Because of the command written in the book of Moses. C. Because they were innocent. 2 Kings 14:6. Why did Amaziah not execute the children of the men who murdered his father? A. Because they were hidden. B. Because of the command written in the book of Moses. C. Because they were innocent. Time. The answer is B. Because of the command written in the book of Moses. 2 Kings 14:7. Where did Amaziah kill? I think that's supposed to be 10,000 Edomites. A. The valley of Salt. B. The valley of En-Gedi. C. The plain of Moab. 2 Kings 14:7. Where did Amaziah kill 10,000 Edomites? A. The valley of Salt. B. The valley of En-Gedi. C. The plain of Moab. Time. Correct answer is A. The valley of Salt. 2 Kings 14:10. What did Jehoash tell Amaziah to do when Amaziah asked him to face him in battle? A. Prepare for battle. B. Stay at home. C. Send me your wife. 2 Kings 14:10. What did Jehoash tell Amaziah to do when Amaziah asked him to face him in battle? A. Prepare for battle. B. Stay at home. C. Send me your wife. Time. Correct answer is B. Stay at home. 2 Kings 14:13. When Israel and Judah fought, Jehoash captured Amaziah and broke down the wall of A. the temple, B. Samaria, C. Jerusalem. 2 Kings 14:13. When Israel and Judah fought, Jehoash captured Amaziah and broke down the wall of A. the temple, B. Samaria, C. Jerusalem. Time. Correct answer is C. Jerusalem. 2 Kings 14:14. What did Jehoash take when he broke down the walls of Jerusalem? A. The prophets of the Lord. B. All the gold and silver and treasuries of the king's house. C. The altar of incense from the temple of the Lord. 2 Kings 14:14. What did Jehoash take when he broke down the walls of Jerusalem? A. The prophets of the Lord. B. All the gold and silver and treasuries of the king's house. C. The altar of incense from the temple of the Lord. Time. Correct answer is B. All the gold and silver and treasuries of the king's house. Two more questions. 2 Kings 14:25. Who prophesied that the territory of Israel would be restored from the entrance of Hamath to the sea of Arabah? A. Elisha the Tishbite. B. Jonah the son of Amittai. C. Jeremiah. 2 Kings 14:25. Who prophesied that the territory of Israel would be restored from the entrance of Hamath to the sea of the Arabah? A. Elisha the Tishbite. B. Jonah the son of Amittai. C. Jeremiah. Time. Correct answer is B. Jonah the son of Amittai. 2 Kings 14:26. The Lord saw the affliction of Israel was very bitter, and whether bond or free, there was A. No helper for Israel, B. No relief for the house of Israel, C. Weeping and wailing in the house of Israel. 2 Kings 14:26. The Lord saw the affliction of Israel was very bitter, and whether bond or free, there was A. No helper for Israel, B. No relief for the house of Israel, C. Weeping and wailing in the house of Israel. Time. Correct answer is A. No helper for Israel. So, I know that you're still watching the last question because I'm watching the live stream. So when you finish with that, send me some scores. Send me some scores and let's see how everybody's doing. By the way, while we're waiting for scores, if you want to watch us online, you can watch at either one of those websites. You can watch at either one of those Facebook pages, the Clarksville Highway Church of Christ or the Gospel Chariot Church, or YouTube. There is a Gospel Chariot channel. And we have been having some issues the last couple of weeks with our Sunday morning stream. We use Vimeo for that, and the problem is in Vimeo. They are trying to get that corrected. So if you have been experiencing problems the last couple of weeks watching the live stream, we are aware of that. We have done everything on our end to try to fix it. We're trying to see if they can get their stuff straightened out, and we'll have to make whatever corrections we need to make to get that working right. So hopefully this week that they will have that straightened out. If not, we'll look at some other options. So I got a score of a 24 from Buddy, a 25 from Linda. Excellent. Way to go. Burgers, 13 to 25. Don't know. It's only scores I have. But hey, I hope you enjoyed it. It was fun. And we will pick up next week back in 2 Kings. Please tune in on Sunday morning at 10 o'clock if you do not have somewhere else to tune into, or if the congregation that you worship with is not meeting. We are meeting at Clarksville Highway. We are only meeting at 10 a.m. for worship. There's no Bible school. There is no children's church. We ask that you wear a mask. When you separate into the auditorium into your family units, we try to keep families at least 6 feet apart. And when you get in those little clusters, you can take your mask off. If you live in the house with someone, then it's okay with you to not use a mask while you're sitting beside them. But during our interaction with each other, we try to always use masks. Try to be careful about that. Please be safe and use good judgment. We would love to see you back at Clarksville Highway if you regularly attend here, but we are not in any way pushing you to do that. Please use your own judgment and do whatever is comfortable for you and whatever you're comfortable with. But we'd love to see you when you get ready to get out and be and just be able to get out and be around people. I personally miss seeing you. I know this Sunday is Father's Day, so if you can't be here with your father, maybe you can watch the live stream together and talk to each other on the phone or something. Well, I won't go into that. You could talk during church and nobody would ever know, right? Just talk to somebody else on the phone. But anyway, Father's Day Sunday, look forward to seeing you if you're here. If not, please use one of those avenues to tune into the live stream. Please let us know if you have any needs or anything that we can do. And just thank you for being part of the live stream tonight. And I am